sheep shearer is Sandy Von Allman here. A woman's lib comes to the field of sheep raising. Sandy is, I think, about the only sheep shearer in the North Country, aren't you, Sandy?
No, there's a few others.
Uh-huh.
I do over 1,000 sheep a year.
One of the younger members of the audience just asked me, does it kill the sheep to be shorn? No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. They actually enjoy it. On a hot day like this, it feels good to get that 8 to 12 pounds of wool right off them. So no one need worry. The sheep isn't going to be hurt in any way. As a matter of fact, you'll have a haircut in a few minutes and feel a lot better. Okay, Sandy, tell us a little bit about handling the sheep before you shear them.
Well, the whole trick is to get their feet up off the ground and they won't struggle. As soon as they can feel something touching their feet, they begin to struggle. As you go along, a lot of the work is being done with your legs and your feet, and there's one hand.
A lot of people, when you're watching someone shear a sheep, want to help, and the first thing that you do is grab the fleece and start pulling on it, which is the worst thing of all, because to shear a sheep, you have to keep a very steady tension between the wool and the skin. If you don't, then you keep a very good tension between the skin and the muscle. So important to keep the sheep quiet and to let the shearer do all the work herself or himself, and just make sure that the against the work down the fleece.
Well, you always start on the belly. The belly is the least quality wool. You get that off and out of the way. Work on the legs here and then get that away. Then you work on the main part of the sheep.
And the best part of the fleece is where?
Right in here.
On the shoulder.
And then back in here. Up in the back part, they get weathering, which is the rain coming down on them, snow, or birds sit up there and do fancy little things.
Right. There's a couple of things that make a fleece more valuable. Could you hand me just a piece of that down in the box underneath? One thing is the staple, which refers to the length of each piece of wool. The staple then would be the length here, and of course the longer your staple, the better. The other term is the crimp, and if you can look at this carefully, you'll see that actually it looks a little bit like somebody took a crimping iron and went right down the sheep, put a little wave in the individual fibers. And this is very important, and the more of this you can get, the better. And I'll try and demonstrate that right now, because you see if you hold it like this, you can go boing, 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 and you can actually get your nice sort of elasticity. And this will be transferred into the yarn, and of course gives the yarn the ability to flex. If you couldn't do that, we couldn't get it over our heads and get it through our arms through it. So staple the length of the fiber and crimp the little wave that's in each one of the wool fibers here are two important things to look for. Of course, color also is important. Most of the colors you see here, except for the obvious ones over there, are natural colors. The dark wool is not, in this case, dyed. It's the actual color of the sheep. A black sheep is a genetic accident in a sense, and of course to get the nice variations for patterns and so forth, black sheep are very desirable now, although in the old days they used to sell the black wool for a lot less. Didn't they actually stuff the black wool inside of the white fleeces at one point to try and hide it or something?
They also put other things in the fleece to make it weigh more.
Right, like a couple of good field stones inside each fleece. Field stones don't spin up very well to make very good yarn. Well, okay, I guess we're ready to have you start, the old girl, so go ahead.
Watch the foot and the leg work and what this left hand is doing.
It's important, especially at this time of year when flies are bad, not to nick the sheep. Each time, and even the very best of shearers do occasionally nick them. each time you have a little wound in the animal's hide, of course, the flies can get in there, and you can have what's called a fly-blown sheep, meaning that the flies laid eggs and maggots can start. So it's important, the later you shear, to make sure that you're more careful not to create these little nicks. Some shepherds actually prefer to have their sheep shorn before the fly season in May or in late April even. And this isn't, even in our climate where April and May can be sometimes quite chilly, this really doesn't do the sheep any harm. They can adjust to the temperature there. The belly wool, as Sandy said, is really the least desirable, and you can see for the very two reasons. The staple is, I mean, it's nothing. It's just very, very short, and there's almost no crimp in it at all. So this is actually discarded. This is part of the discarded wool here. The best trademark for a good shearer is the fact that there are no second cuts in the fleece. Now, a second cut means that the shearer has not actually gotten close enough to the skin when she pulls the shears across it, and she has to go back for literally a second cutting of the wool. And the reason why this is undesirable is that it creates a very short discard fiber. It's mixed in with the rest of the wool. It's hard to get it out. Also means, of course, that the length, the staple of the original wool is less desirable. Now, as you notice, the entire shearing process is a question of positioning the animal and then holding the sheep, the combination of arm and both legs. And when he's held, or she's held correctly, with the right kind of pressure, you notice that the animal really isn't struggling that much at all. And I think she's already beginning to realize that she's going to feel a lot better in about 10 minutes. Usually once a year. You can shear them twice, but you're going to have a less desirable fleece. Some of the confusion about whether they kill the sheep or not, I think, comes between the difference between a pelt and a fleece. A pelt does come from a dead animal, and that's when you actually remove the skin and the wool and then tan it. But this is going to be a fleece, which is just the wool, and as I said, the animal is not harmed in any way and really feels a lot better when you're done. Notice Sandy's nice, long, even strokes. The longer you can pull your shears with each draw, the better your fleece is going to be, the quicker you're going to be able to do the shearing. And notice also she has almost no second cuts whatsoever. She's managed to get right close to the sheep's skin with one good draw of the shears. Now this is the sign of a good shearer. She draws the shears with one stroke all the way from the tail to the ears. This is going to be an excellent fleece in terms of the shearing.
What is the length of time that it takes to, you said 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes to do it carefully, yeah. She's going really carefully. First of all, because it's a demonstration.
Right.
Second of all, because we really don't want to nick the sheep at this time of year. It really can be a big problem. If you only have a handful of sheep, you can check them. But if you have 6,000, 7,000 sheep, you can't run around with an iodine bottle all day long. So, of course, the professional shearers that do it in the antipodes in Australia and New Zealand, they can do a sheep in less than 2 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I was going to say, what is the
yeah, well, that's
record time probably?
it's under 2 minutes, I think, but that's really a performance. That's not practical shearing. And they do nix them.
By fall, this should be a good
It will start, yeah, it'll start to grow quite quickly. I believe, I'm not sure of my biology, but I believe that the wool grows as the days get shorter. So it's actually the photo process. And by the time Thanksgiving comes, they'll have a good fleece on them. Very good. Well, it's like a hair. It's like a hair, yeah. No, it's much finer than that. There you go, old girl. Oh, I don't think you nicked her anywhere, did you? Not a single nick on her. I think that deserves another round of applause. Yeah. And you can see she's a good animal in good fit. Do you feel better? You want to tell us you feel better, do you?